The first scream echoed through the marble halls just as sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting the billionaire's mansion in gold. Doctors had come and gone since dawn, their white coats blending into the sterile brightness, their faces heavy with the same expression of defeat. The boy lay motionless on a massive bed that looked far too grand for such a fragile life. Machines hummed, monitors blinked, and hope quietly bled out of the room. This was the morning when everyone finally accepted the impossible truth. No doctor in the country could cure the billionaire's son. If you believe that kindness, patience, and second chances can change even the darkest fate, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to DRAMEX Story. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Ethan Blackwell was only 9 years old, his skin pale against the white sheets, his chest rising shallowly, as if even breathing required effort. His father, Victor Blackwell, stood near the window in a perfectly tailored suit, hands trembling despite his wealth and power. He owned companies across continents, commanded rooms full of powerful men, and could buy almost anything in the world. Yet in that bright, quiet bedroom, he was nothing more than a helpless father watching his only son fade. The illness had no clear name, no clear cause, only terrifying symptoms that worsened each day. Specialists flew in from abroad. Tests were repeated endlessly, and every sunrise brought less hope than the last. Downstairs, while the house buzzed with anxiety, a young maid named Alina Reyes moved quietly through the corridors, sunlight following her as she cleaned. She was in her early 20s, with warm brown skin, tired eyes, and simple clothes that blended into the background of luxury. She had been hired only weeks ago, barely noticed by the household, yet she noticed everything. She noticed how the air felt heavier near the boys' room, how the plants in the east wing had begun to wilt despite perfect care, and how the faint smell of metal clung to certain hallways whenever the sun rose high. Alina's life had taught her to observe. Growing up in a rural town where doctors were far away and survival depended on attention to small details, she learned early that danger often whispered before it screamed. Each day, as she cleaned during daylight hours, she felt an unease she could not explain. The boy's condition worsened most rapidly in the late morning. The headaches, the weakness, the sudden seizures always followed the same pattern, as predictable as the sun's climb across the sky. As the household drowned in despair, Alina struggled with her own fear. Who was she to think she saw something others missed? These were trained doctors, powerful men, advanced machines. Still, the pattern gnawed at her. One afternoon while sunlight flooded the room, she noticed Ethan's skin reacting, faint rashes blooming and fading as light hit his face. The machines did not react, but his body did. That was when terror crept into her chest, not from the illness itself, but from what might be causing it. She began paying closer attention, cleaning slowly, watching how light moved through the house. She noticed how the windows in Ethan's room had been replaced recently, custom glass imported at great expense. The glass shimmered strangely under the sun, almost invisible, yet unnerving. As the day grew brighter, Ethan grew weaker. As clouds passed, he seemed calmer. It was not coincidence. It was something far more frightening. Alina's hands shook as she realized the truth forming in her mind. The glass was filtering something harmful, concentrating it, turning sunlight into poison. A rare manufacturing defect, invisible to the eye, but deadly over time. The mansion, built to symbolize success, had become a silent weapon. Ethan was not dying from an incurable disease. He was being slowly poisoned by the very room meant to protect him. Fear battled courage as Alina carried this knowledge. She knew the risk of speaking up. She was just a maid, easily dismissed, easily fired. But as she watched Victor Blackwell crumble day by day, and Ethan struggled to hold on to life under the bright sky, her silence felt heavier than any punishment. One late morning, with sunlight blazing through the windows, she acted. The hours that followed changed everything. The room was darkened, the windows covered. The boy moved to a shaded space filled with fresh air. As daylight passed without its usual cruel effect, Ethan's breathing steadied for the first time in weeks. The machines quieted. Alarms remained silent, and doctors stared in disbelief as his condition stabilized. By evening, when the sun dipped low, hope returned, fragile but real. Victor learned the truth in stages, each revelation cutting deeper than the last. His wealth had brought him the finest materials, the most exclusive designs, yet none of it protected his son. It took the awareness of a maid, someone the world taught him to overlook, to save what mattered most. Guilt washed over him, followed by gratitude so deep it left him speechless. Days passed, and Ethan grew stronger under careful treatment and safe light. The terrifying discovery spread quietly among specialists, turning into a lesson that no textbook had taught. Alina's life changed too, not through sudden riches, but through respect, trust, and a place in a family that once barely knew her name. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that compassion and awareness can come from anyone, anywhere, please show your love by engaging with this video. Your likes, comments, and shares help these stories reach others who need hope. Before the ending, a special request from the heart. Comment the word light if you believe even ordinary people can uncover extraordinary truths. On a bright morning weeks later, sunlight still filled the mansion. But now it was gentle, safe, and warm. Ethan laughed softly as he walked through the halls, and Victor finally breathed without fear. In that light, they all learned the same unforgettable truth. Sometimes the most terrifying discoveries lead to the most beautiful second chances, and sometimes, salvation arrives wearing the simplest uniform of all.